My voice was calm, but my heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. This innovative, holistic approach will not only streamline operations but also project a cutting-edge image for the client, securing their loyalty for years. I finished, looking around the polished conference room. The air, usually thick with ambition, was suddenly heavy with an uncomfortable silence. Then, a snicker from the far end of the table broke it. It was Marcus, the VP of Product, a man whose career was built on safe, incremental steps. Cutting edge, or just cut with too much ambition, Seline? His chuckle was echoed by a few others, hesitant at first, then growing bolder. It's too complicated, another chimed in. Too many moving parts. We need something simpler, something we can actually execute without hiring a team of rocket scientists. My stomach clenched. This wasn't just a critique. It was an open mockery of weeks of meticulous work, of an idea I believed in with every fiber of my being. This $30 million deal, the biggest in the company's history, was hanging in the balance, and they were laughing at the solution. Mr. Henderson, our CEO, cleared his throat, his gaze lingering on me, then shifting to the whiteboard where my intricate diagrams still glowed. Seline, I appreciate the thoroughness, but perhaps we should go with something more straightforward. Marcus's proposal seems more manageable for the timeline. And just like that, my proposal, my carefully crafted vision, was dismissed, replaced by a bland, uninspired alternative that promised only mediocrity. The humiliation burned, a familiar ache deep in my chest, but beneath it, a quiet resolve began to harden. This wasn't the first time I'd found myself in this position, standing at the precipice of a brilliant idea, only to be pushed back by the tide of conventional thinking, by those who preferred the comfort of the status quo over the risk of true innovation. I remember my first real job out of college working for a small tech startup. I was fresh, eager, brimming with ideas. I'd proposed a new coding architecture that would have made our platform infinitely more scalable, but my senior lead, a grizzled veteran named Tom, scoffed at it. "Too much too soon, kid," he'd grumbled. "Stick to the basics." A year later, the company hit a wall. Their outdated architecture couldn't handle the user growth, and they collapsed under the weight of their own technical debt. I watched from afar, the familiar sting of "I told you so" mixed with the bitter taste of missed potential. That failure, though not mine, had etched a crucial lesson into my soul. Competence, not popularity, is the only currency that truly matters. It taught me that sometimes the most profound victories are born not from immediate acceptance, but from quiet, unwavering belief in your own vision, even when the world around you doubts. It's a strange kind of strength to absorb the ridicule, to feel the sting of dismissal, and still deep down know you're right. My father, a brilliant but perpetually overlooked architect, used to tell me, "Seline, a truly great design isn't just seen, it's felt. And sometimes people need to feel the inadequacy of everything else before they can truly appreciate what you've built." His words, echoing in the quiet aftermath of that meeting, fueled a fire within me. I wasn't angry. I was determined. I wasn't hurt. I was sharpening my tools. They had chosen simplicity over innovation, comfort over capability, and I knew, with a certainty that settled deep in my bones, that their choice would lead them to a cliff edge. And I would be there, ready. The initial rollout of Marcus's streamlined plan was met with cautious optimism. "See?" Marcus would crow during team meetings, his chest puffed out. Sometimes less really is more. The client, initially impressed by the promise of quick delivery, bought into the facade. But I saw the cracks forming almost immediately. Their plan relied on off-the-shelf solutions and generic templates, utterly missing the nuanced, complex needs I had painstakingly identified. In my original proposal, I watched as project deadlines began to slip, first by a day or two, then a week. Client calls became more frequent, their tone shifting from polite inquiry to thinly veiled frustration. I could hear whispers in the hallways. "Has anyone heard back from the client on that integration issue?" The data migration is a nightmare. Each little hiccup, each mounting complaint was a predictable echo of the warnings I had laid out, the risks I had meticulously detailed and addressed in my comprehensive, too complicated plan. I didn't offer unsolicited advice. I didn't say, "I told you so." I simply continued my work, maintaining my usual professional demeanor, observing. It's a powerful thing to watch a train wreck in slow motion, when you know precisely how to prevent it. There was a quiet satisfaction in seeing my predictions unfold, not out of malice, but out of a stark validation of my expertise. The injustice wasn't just my proposal being dismissed. It was the company, the client, everyone involved, suffering because of a decision fueled by ego and a lack of foresight. The true cost of their short-sightedness was beginning to reveal itself. The pressure mounted. The client, a notoriously demanding one, began issuing thinly veiled threats about pulling out of the $30 million deal entirely. Emails flew back and forth, each one more urgent, more panicked than the last. Marcus, once so confident, now looked perpetually stressed, his once crisp shirts appearing rumpled, his hair disheveled. He called emergency meetings, throwing out half-baked ideas, desperately trying to patch holes in a sinking ship. He even approached me once, looking utterly defeated. "Seline, you're usually so good at this. Any thoughts on how to fix the API integration?" I offered general, encouraging words, suggesting he lean on the team's collective wisdom, knowing full well that wisdom had been dismissed weeks ago. I wasn't being cruel. I was simply refusing to enable their continued self-deception. This wasn't just about my ego. It was about demonstrating in no uncertain terms the irreplaceable value of true competence. They had chosen to ignore it once. They wouldn't have that luxury again. The crisis was deepening, and the stage was being set for the inevitable. While their plan unraveled, mine was quietly flourishing. Late nights, early mornings, weekends, I poured every spare moment into refining my original proposal. I didn't just dust it off. I enhanced it. I anticipated every new problem that had emerged from their failing strategy and integrated solutions directly into my already comprehensive framework. I created new data models, simulated scenarios, and even drafted alternative communication strategies for the client. I wasn't just preparing a backup. I was building an unassailable fortress of a solution, making it even more robust, even more compelling than it had been before. My computer became my silent confidant, filled with meticulously organized folders. Project Phoenix revised, client pain points resolved, Marcus's flaws predicted. I collected snippets of emails, veiled complaints from the client, even recorded the increasingly frantic tone of internal meetings. Not for blackmail, but for data, for irrefutable evidence that my solution was not merely an alternative but the only viable path forward. The key was discretion. No grand pronouncements, no hinting at my work. I maintained my daily duties, a picture of calm professionalism, while beneath the surface, a quiet storm of preparation raged. It was exhausting, exhilarating work, fueled by the conviction that competence would eventually speak louder than any dismissive laughter. The satisfaction wasn't in contemplating their downfall, but in knowing I held the key to their salvation, and they had absolutely no idea. I was the silent architect of their future, and they were unwittingly building the perfect platform for my triumphant return. The email arrived on a Tuesday subject line: urgent, client meeting, project escalation. Mr. Henderson himself had called the meeting, requesting the presence of all senior stakeholders, including myself. The tone was grim. The $30 million deal was on life support. The client had delivered an ultimatum: present a viable path forward within 24 hours or they would walk. The conference room felt like a tomb. Marcus was pale, visibly sweating, stammering through a convoluted explanation of unforeseen technical challenges. He kept glancing at Mr. Henderson, whose face was a mask of grave disappointment. The head of sales looked ready to cry. The client, on a video call, sat with folded arms, their expressions ranging from exasperation to outright anger. "We've given you weeks," the client's CEO stated, his voice devoid of patience. "We need a solution, not excuses. Our patience has run out." Mr. Henderson pinched the bridge of his nose. "Does anyone have a concrete plan to salvage this? We're losing this deal, people." That was my cue. Not a dramatic entrance, but a quiet, confident assertion. I had anticipated this moment. I raised my hand. "Mr. Henderson, if I may, I believe I have an alternative approach that addresses all the client's concerns, including the technical integrations and timeline issues." Marcus scoffed, a desperate, reflexive sound. "Seline, we already went over your proposal. It's too comprehensive, Marcus." I interrupted, my voice steady, cutting through his protest. "Or simply too effective for the path we chose?" Mr. Henderson looked at me, a flicker of surprise in his eyes. Seline, what do you have? I opened my laptop, the screen illuminating my meticulously refined presentation. The room fell silent as I began. My original proposal, which was unfortunately deemed too complicated, was built on a modular framework designed precisely for this level of complexity. It accounts for the API integration challenges by utilizing a proprietary middleware, something their current system completely lacks. Furthermore, I've refined the data migration strategy, reducing the projected timeline by half, and I've prepared a communication plan that proactively addresses their core frustrations. Slide after slide, I unveiled solutions to problems. They were currently grappling with answers to questions they hadn't even articulated yet. I spoke with clarity, confidence, and an undeniable authority. I showed them simulated results, positive client feedback from hypothetical scenarios I'd run, even a tiered implementation strategy that gave them flexibility. The panic on Marcus's face slowly morphed into a horrified realization. The other executives, initially skeptical, leaned forward, their expression shifting from despair to cautious hope. The client's CEO, whose face had been a storm cloud, now had a single curious eyebrow raised. This is exactly what we needed, he said, his voice slow, filled with dawning understanding. Why wasn't this presented before? A pregnant silence filled the room. All eyes turned to Marcus. He stammered, "Well, it was complex. We thought a simpler approach." His voice trailed off, his carefully constructed facade crumbling around him. The moment of reversal was complete. The weight of his own short-sightedness and the brilliance of my vindication hung heavy in the air. The deal wasn't just saved, it was resurrected, and they knew exactly who had done it. The deal was not only saved but revitalized. The client, deeply impressed by the depth and foresight of my solution, signed an expanded contract, increasing the value from $30 million to $38 million. Mr. Henderson, after the client call, pulled me aside. "Seline," he said, his voice low, "I owe you an apology and a promotion. Effective immediately, you're leading this entire division with full autonomy." It wasn't just about the title or the money. It was about the recognition, the trust, the undeniable validation of my vision and my competence. Marcus, on the other hand, quietly faded into the background. His simpler approach had almost cost the company a monumental deal, and his public flailing in the crisis had not gone unnoticed. He remained in his role, but his influence waned. His suggestions met with a new, subtle skepticism. His arrogance had been his undoing, proving that a loud voice and an easy solution are no match for quiet preparation and genuine expertise. The other executives who had snickered during my initial presentation now approached me with a newfound respect. Their apologies, often unspoken but clearly communicated in their deferential attitudes. My triumphant exit wasn't a departure from the company, but a triumphant ascent within it. I now led the team that had once dismissed me, shaping strategy and fostering an environment where innovation was celebrated, not ridiculed. It was satisfying, not in a vengeful way, but in the quiet, profound realization that competence, when wielded with patience and precision, is the most powerful form of justice. I learned that day, and continue to relearn, that true value is not determined by immediate acceptance but by enduring quality. It's about having the courage to stand by your convictions, even when they're met with laughter. It's about doing the quiet, painstaking work, not for immediate applause, but for the undeniable proof of its efficacy. And sometimes the most potent revenge isn't about destroying those who wronged you, but about building something so undeniably brilliant that their own inadequacy becomes their greatest punishment. If you've ever felt the sting of dismissal, if your ideas have been mocked, or if your quiet competence has been overlooked in favor of louder, less effective voices, then you understand this story. You understand the profound satisfaction of watching the natural consequences unfold and then, with quiet dignity, stepping in to deliver the solution only you could provide, because your worth isn't defined by others' perception, but by your unwavering commitment to your own truth. Share your stories in the comments below. Have you ever turned a moment of humiliation into your greatest triumph? I want to hear it. And if this resonated with you, if you believe in the quiet power of competence, please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about how resilience, strategy, and unshakable belief in yourself can ultimately lead to the most unexpected, And most satisfying? Victories. Because sometimes the best revenge is simply letting your success speak for itself.